Hi everyone. So today I'll be leading you through about an hour restorative yoga class. You'll need to have a couple straps. If you don't have two straps, I'll give another option for the double loop we'll be working. You'll probably want to have them already looped up and ready to go if you are using the straps. 2 to 4 blankets, depending on if you have 2 bolsters or just 1 bolster, and if you enjoy having blocks nearby, a couple blocks. So once you've gathered all your things, go ahead and lie down on your back and use any support that you like to use when you come onto your back. Not like a full-blown shavasana or anything, but just be comfortable. Take any position with your feet and your legs that feel supportive. And as you begin to settle into just where you landed on your mat, whether it's on your back, perhaps you chose to lie on your side or something different. Just begin to notice what points of contact your body is making to your mat, to the earth. You notice any of the texture and support of whatever props you chose to use as you lied down. And just bringing some awareness to your lower limbs, your feet. Just noticing the weight of your heels. You're noticing if one foot is turned out more so than the other, whether the legs are extended out long in front of you or if your knees are bent and your feet are planted. Just notice. And just start to notice the weight and length of your legs going up the right side and back down the right side of your leg, both the top and bottom. Scanning up your left leg all the way up from the foot, right to the hip crease and back down. And start to bring your awareness to your spine. And taking a screenshot of what impression your spine and back is making on your mat. And it's bringing your attention to the top part of your body, up your abdomen, to your ribs, wrapping around your heart, up to your chest. And perhaps feel your breath as you are scanning this torso and chest rib area. And just notice what changed and shifted as you brought your mind's eye to your breath. And then notice your shoulders. Maybe if one shoulder feels closer to an ear than the other without the need to change anything. Connect with where in space you landed your hands and your arms. Are they resting on your body or are they down by your sides? Perhaps notice how far away your arms are from your sides of the body. If your right side and left side feel as if it's an equal distance or not. Then begin to notice your head, the crown of your head, your facial features. Maybe noticing what perhaps feels tense and what feels soft. And perhaps through this practice, you can have some sort of intention or mantra of letting something soften or release. And before we start to move, imagine if you were lying in the sand on a nice warm beach. What impression would your entire body make in that sand? Where the crevices and the creases, the peaks and the valleys. Does one side make a deeper impression than the other? And without judgment, just with some curiosity. And tuck that in the back of your head for now. And from whatever position you took on your back or your side, just begin to make some movements in your hands and your feet. So that you can, in some way, gently start to make your way to one side. And then roll yourself up to a seat, letting your head and neck be the last thing to come up. So from here, we'll move into a supported child's pose. So depending on how much support you need, you'll take either a few folded up blankets or a couple of bolsters right between your thighs, and then begin to make your way down over your props. Now, if child's pose isn't your jam for our first restorative pose, you're always welcome to do legs up a chair. I'm just kind of inverting the pose a little bit if that sounds more restful for you. Otherwise, just begin to find your setup, letting your head either turn to one side or down, adding or taking away props as needed. And sometimes a little movement is necessary as you settle into the poses. So don't feel rushed to find that stillness within the pose right away. You're always welcome to adjust as needed. Changing nothing in the pose or the position that you found. Just notice to which direction your head is turned, or if it's turned to one direction. You can imagine what it would feel like to turn your head in the opposite direction. And at this point, if you would like to turn that into that action of rotating your head the other way, you're invited to do so. After a few moments, if it's not comfortable or you did change and at any point it becomes just too challenging to breathe in or cause your breath to catch your stick, just let your head rest wherever it's most peaceful for you. Take one more breath as you are in the shape that you took. And before coming up, let's all turn our head down towards our props for a moment. And then begin to slide your hands back so that you can press and roll yourself up to a seat. You can take your time shifting over to one side. I like to stretch my legs straight out in front of me after that child's pose. If you need to move around at all, you can move. And from here, we'll set up for a variation of side lying. So for me, I'm going to use the bolster and turn it across the back third of my mat. And just use a folded up blanket for my head. If you like the kind of stacked variation of that side lying, it's a little bit of a louder pose, a little more alert. You're welcome to it, but I know for me and my body today, it being a little bit lower is going to be more comfortable for me. So once you have your general setup, I'm starting on my left side. So you want your left side ribs to start to come over the edge of the bolster or your blankets. And then it's your choice for your arm variation, whether you're stretching that bottom arm forward or if you want to support between your neck and your arm for your side variation. And then perhaps a blanket between the legs. I'm actually going to let my top arm drape over. And once you settle into that position, just notice your breath here. Just feel the process of the breath moving into that top side of yours. Staying in the pose for a few moments longer. Begin to bring some awareness up to your top arm, top side of your body. And if you took a variation with your top hand and arm, just gently let it rest down by your side or down in front of you for a moment. And if you took a leg variation, begin to bring your knees in towards your bolster setup for a moment. And before we come up, find a subtle rocking motion with your pelvis, that top hip rocking slightly forward and slightly back. It's not a big movement. And then next time your pelvis is slightly rocking forward towards your knees, you can begin to press yourself all the way up to a seat. And once you find yourself in that seated position, just pause for a moment. Just give yourself that time to reflect and notice your left side from your right side. Even the quality and tone of your breath. And then I'll give you these next few moments to switch sides. At home, you can just turn around. You don't have to move your props all around. I'm going to switch the side in which my props are on, just so I continue to face you. So with as much ease, start to make your way to the other side. You might need just as many props on this side, you might need less. And once you find yourself in that setup, just allow yourself to drift into noticing your breath on this side, noticing the input of the props that you took to support you, and how the breath feels on this side compared to the first side. And staying as you are for one more breath. Begin to bring your awareness to that top hand, letting it rest down in front of you. Letting your knees slightly come in. And we'll find that same rocking motion, just a little bit forward towards your knees and a little back. And we'll eventually roll forward and all the way up to a seat. So once you come up to that seat, you can just pause and let your eyes gently close. You take a scan of your body all the way from the bottom to the top. And we'll begin to reset for our next pose, which will be a supine bound angle. So depending on your setup, you'll take a bolster or blanket towards the back center long edge of your mat. And then you choose if you want to use a strap around your pelvis. I'm going to use that personally. If you don't have one, you don't have to use one. You have options. You'll most likely want to have something on either side of your mat space to support your legs. And if you need more height under your bolster, you're always welcome to make that ramp if you need more height. And for that strap variation, you'll just take the strap around your body. And as you sit right up against your bolster, you want that strap to sit low on your sacrum. You'll join the soles of your feet together. Loop the strap over the tops of your feet. And then you just pull the strap in as snug as you would like it. So you just want to have a sense of being held. I almost like to think of it as being in a hug. And then you can begin to make your way down. And of course, any wiggling into the posture is always welcome. And as we hold this pose, at any time, if you feel that the pose has served you before I bring you all out, you're always welcome to come out and rest in a different position or take a mini Shavasana. And I'll also mention as you're settling in that placing a light piece of cloth, or even if you're using an eye pillow, especially in this posture, can be quite peaceful. So for the final few moments that we're in this shape, just notice your breath moving in and out. And perhaps there's something you can allow to soften even more for these last few rounds of breath that we're in this shape. So bringing your attention to your feet, your knees, all the way up to your hips. And you finding some movement into your hands so that in some way you can begin to assist your legs out of whatever support you took. Either just plant your feet with your knees bent on your mat or stretch your legs out in front of you. We'll pause here for a moment. And then taking your time, we'll begin to make our way up slowly to a seat. So you can either roll off to one side or gently curl yourself up. Set your props aside. Okay. So from here, we'll move into our prone twist. So your bolster will stay right where it is. And you'll adjust your props to what it is you need for the height on this pose. I'm actually going to turn my bolster around since I'm mic'd up. So for the setup, we'll start on our right side. So you'll want to bring your right outer edge of your thigh to the bolster. And then bring your hands on either side of that bolster. And as you turn down, you want to try to get your left chest down first. That won't happen, but that's the idea for the rotation here. And be sure to move away any props that you're not using or serving you on this side. You might play around with your blanket setup and the height of your bolster. If for any reason that this twist is not working for you, I'm going to suggest lying down on your back and taking Ardha Appanasana with the strap around the thigh. It's kind of an alternative that would fit into the overall flow of this class. If for any reason the twist is not agreeing with you today. And staying in the pose, if you have your head turned away from your knees, just begin to let your head turn in that direction for the last couple breaths that we're in this shape. And then we'll all begin to turn our heads downward and eventually press upward. Let's take that moment to pause. And taking as much time as you need, we're just going to switch sides. And you may have to readjust and refluff depending on the props that you're using. So on this side, we're lining up our left outer hip to the edge of the bolster. Then trying to get our right chest down to first. So at this point, if your head is turned away from your knees, begin to let it drift towards your knees in that direction for a moment. And then we'll eventually all start to turn our heads downward and then begin to press yourself up to a seat. So enjoy that pause for a moment in your seat. And at this point, we're going to set up for bridge bed, which I know many of you loved. So I'm going to give you a couple different variations to make it work if you don't have 2 straps or double straps at home. If you don't have all the blankets and bolsters to set this posture up, you could always do legs up the wall or legs up the chair. It's another great alternative. So you can begin to find that setup of your 2 bolsters stacked lengthwise on your mat. I know I like to have something underneath my head for my shoulders. And then make sure I have all my stuff nearby. You'll start to sit on the inner edge of one of your bolsters so that you can begin to loop up your upper thighs. So if you have both straps, you can go for that setup. I'm going to show the 2 options if you either only have 1 strap or no straps at all. So if you only have 1 strap, you can actually take a blanket and wrap it, tuck it underneath your legs in a way that you'll feel held and supported, and you can make your way on down. Shoulder heads are draping down and over. If you have no strap, you can do this and kind of do like a mummy wrap, as I call it, and tuck yourself in and find yourself here. Arms generally go out to the sides long. Only one of my arms can go out that far because of the wall, so make sure you have space. Let's enjoy this rest. Take one more breath as you are here. And start to bring some awareness back to your breath, to your arms and your legs. And the easiest way to come out of this one is probably going to be to start to bend your knees up and in so that you can unloop yourself out of your straps or your blanket. And then set your feet on either side of the bolster. Probably lift up or just roll off to one side. And once you've made yourself come out of the pose gracefully, we are going to go right into Shavasana from here. So set yourself up in a way that you can be supported and restful for about 10 minutes. The Shavasana is for you, so I'm going to stay on the entire 10 minutes, so you don't have to set a timer or worry about the clock or the time. So just start to make that shift into whatever Shavasana looks like for you today. Preparing to enjoy this gift of rest that you gave to yourself through this entire practice, and continue to enjoy this gift as we settle in for our final pose. And before we officially arrive into that Shavasana, come back to that image of if you were lying on a warm sandy beach, what type of impression now would your body make in that sand? So begin to invite some deeper breaths back in and out. While you continue to enjoy the stillness and peacefulness of this moment. Inviting some further sensations back in. You're just noticing the texture of the props that you took to support you, the light beneath your eyes, temperature of your skin. And if you feel that you need a bit more time as you are, you're welcome to stay here. Or you can begin to find some bigger movements, stretching, reaching through your limbs, and eventually rolling over to one side. Just pause on your side. And then you can eventually come up to a seat. So once you come up to a seat, just let your eyes gently close. And just notice what you notice within your body and your breath. Invite a soft smile to come onto your face and feel the global effect that that small gesture has. And bring your hands to your heart center. Invite a full breath into the top. And with that smile, let it out. And you can blink your eyes open. Thank you, my friends. Have a good rest of your day or evening. And I'll see you next time.